Hi, my name's Jane Scarf, and I'm coming to you today from Kingston, Ontario, back from the Worldwide Rally, Freedom Rally in Toronto, and it was fantastic. The total count isn't in, but it was thousands of people. You couldn't even see the end of the crowd. Very enthusiastic, very energetic, and they are hopeful because many people came to speak to Rebecca Shepherd and I afterwards, and they are taking action themselves. They're doing the progressive notice of liability, which is a notice of liability that moves forward. You know, if it doesn't, if the offender doesn't clean up their act in 7 days, then you're going forward to create a debt based on the harm, and then collect the debt, which includes reporting them to Equifax when they're in default, and leaning their house, collection agency, or you can do it yourself, but it's a little awkward to do it yourself. So you could even have somebody that you know do it, make the calls, send letters, emails, whatever, demanding that the debt be taken care of, and then ultimately court. Preferably small claims court because it's more manageable by yourself. It's a court that was meant to be used without a lawyer. The procedures are simple, and you just get to the point. They breach my privacy, $5,000. Here's the case law. That's it. And if they breach more than that, then of course it's higher. And if you lose something, lose services, lose employment. Now, mind you, I don't know if you'd want it. I don't think it would be reasonable to do an employment contract breach in small claims court unless the award is meant to be under 35,000. Anything bigger than that, it has to go to Superior Court. And you pretty much have to have a lawyer there. It's complex and expensive, time-consuming. So hopefully you can wrap everything under 35 and take care of it yourself. And it's fast, it's simple, and it's effective. It's the same arguments you would make there, and the judges are superior court judges that are in there. You know, it's not a wimp-ass process. It's just simplified process and quicker. And so for smaller debts, that's like under 35,000. That's where you go. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video, but I want to mention it again because I have something else to add. To the businesses or employers who are being told they must enforce the vaccine passport, I want you to know a number of things. First of all, you don't have to let bylaw, public health, or police into your establishment if they don't have a criminal warrant or civil warrant, like without a warrant. And so you can put a trespass notice on the door prohibiting them to enter. So even if you have a business that's generally open to the public, you can expressly state to them, no, you're not coming in. So it's going to be pretty hard for them to enforce it if they can't even see what you're doing, A. And B, you can make the argument that by the public health and bylaw officers cannot or police, no one can force you, even the government can't force you to break the law. So with the passports, there's, I won't go into detail with it now, but everything will be on the site as each piece comes into place. But there's 5 criminal laws that are being violated in the vaccine passport process, and that would be by the owner or by the employer or the school, whatever, who's ever imposing it. 5 criminal charges. As well, there are at least 3 breaches to the Canadian Bill of Rights. Now the thing is, anybody that's doing that or is being required to do that enforcement is being initiated into it by the public health, and it's an enforcement process. So if it's an enforcement process, it's covered by the Criminal Code of Canada. All enforcement is regulated there, and that includes police and their peace officers, or it includes public officials. And public health would fall under the public official, and it even says private person, this is in the criminal code, private person who's been initiated by either the peace officer or the public officer to enforce law. So that's what they're doing. They're enforcing the vaccine passport law, which is regulation, but nevertheless it's law. So the good news is that once it's covered in the criminal code, the activity or the persons are covered in the criminal code, Canadian Bill of Rights kicks in. So you cannot violate either the criminal code or the Canadian Bill of Rights. The Canadian Bill of Rights has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. That's where your right to privacy, right to informed consent, and your right to liberty. You know, like move around, to make choices. You know, like it's and also in the Canadian Bill of Rights, there's provision for the government to treat everybody equally, equal benefit of the law. So treating vaccinated people different than unvaccinated people is a violation there. That's why I say there's 3 violations of the Canadian Bill of Rights. So they're violating the principle of equal treatment of the law, your liberty, and your right to informed consent and privacy, which is under the security of person. So you're well covered. So as a business owner or as an employer, you can tell public health to take a flying leap, because they do not have the authority to make you commit a crime, a criminal offense, or violate the Canadian Bill of Rights. And they can't say, well, you're not covered. Yeah, I'm covered because you're engaging me in law enforcement. So automatically, I'm in the criminal code, and then automatically the Canadian Bill of Rights applies. So we've got this, and many other, like there's many other ways that we have this. OSHA prohibits what they're doing, expressly prohibits it, not just, implicitly. No, it says employers cannot force the collection of medical information, period. The only exceptions are court order, there's no court order, tribunal decision, there's no tribunal decision, or instruction from a statute. Well, the passports are not statute, they're rinky-dinky bylaws. It's a regulation on the provincial level that initiates a bylaw process through the municipality. So your public health, your bylaw people, it's bylaws. So that's not a statute. A statute is a full-fledged law that's been debated, public consultation, voting 3 times, and royal assent. That's a statute. That's what they would need. And as well, one more point, and then I'm going to wrap it up. The Privacy Commission has confirmed all of this. He said that currently they do not have a sufficient emergency to justify violating privacy. And you'll have to look it up yourself. I just put Privacy Commission, and it's online. But he lays out the conditions that they would have to meet in order to, like, for example, if it's Ebola and an Ebola-like disease that also spread fast, it spread slow, so they didn't have to do any big cartwheels. But you could have a disease. There's been diseases in the past that have wiped out, 3/4 of families and goes all through the community and whatever. If you have something like that, and there's evidence of that, you might want to do privacy to get control of it, because that's the other thing they have to show. They have to show that there's a real intense emergency, and that the violation of the rights was going to address that, or going to help to combat that in some way. So they haven't met either one of those criteria. And as well, he's warning anybody that's planning to do the passports to check out the legality of it. In their opinion, there needs to be a statute, which is what we're saying. That's stand for the .ca. We're that's exactly what we're saying. Rinky-dink bylaws won't cut the deal. And people need to understand that. I know it's like most people just go, when they hear anything legal, but try to keep your mind open because it's not complicated. Statute, a rinky-dinky bylaw. And it's not just one statute up here that's prohibiting what they're doing here. There's a multitude of statutes that are prohibiting what they're doing down here. So rinky-dinky bylaw that is got no capacity to override our rights and force people to commit criminal activity. So we can do this, but you have to get active. You have to push back. Tell them, no, not doing that. You gonna give me a fine for it? Fine, I'll beat the fine. Because you have no authority to do this. And don't let them in. Simple as that. Don't let them in. And if they hand you a fine outside or stick it on the side of your bill, whatever, take the fine. You can fight it. The Canadian Bill of Rights, you're not allowed. There's your defense there. You're not allowed to violate the Canadian Bill of Rights. And you're not allowed to break the criminal code provisions either. So there's your defense. Simple. And if you have any questions, you can either contact me at mjslegalservices@yahoo.com or Rebecca Shepherd at standforthe.ca, and that's the number 4, and the THEE. There you go for today.